Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from Sweden is Harri Tunturivuori. Hey, Harri, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here. We don't get a lot of Finnish names on the show, but hey, here we are.
Yep.
One Finnish name at least. So Harri is an experienced leader, a Scrum Master and an Agile coach who was introduced to the world of Agile software development in 2010. Since then, Harri has had the pleasure of leading great Agile teams in various forms, and he enjoys working in a fun environment where there is room for innovation. And Harri is driven by the challenge of growing a group of good people into a great team. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that here on the show this week. So Harri, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Yeah, sure. So that was, as you said, in 2010. But it actually, the journey became already 2009 when I was working in Nokia Copenhagen. And the company started an agile transformation back then. So, but I was involved in finishing up some older products that we have been delivering in the waterfall fashion. And my role back then was something that we called internally error manager. And that meant that I was prioritizing bug reports and assigning them to the right persons. So during the transformation, I was prioritizing work for a team that worked on maintaining the software. And I started to run things in Kanban fashion. I didn't know it back then, but it was I saw how the Scrum team were doing with the backlog, and I saw that sprints doesn't work. So I did some mix, and then I talked also to the agile coach that we had, and he also suggested this way of working, and that worked really well. And after we had delivered the product and the phones were kind of done, me and the team, we moved on to new development, and I took on the role as Scrum Master for that team. And I didn't have any prior experience with Scrum at that time, but I got a 2-day certification training, and as I mentioned before, we had the agile coach, and he was really good. He helped me to get going and so on. So since then I've been working as both a Scrum Master, but also different roles. But the main thing has always been to help teams improve with agile practices and try to deliver high quality products.
Absolutely. And of course, the focus on teams is a great part of the work of a Scrum Master and Agile coach and leader like yourself. And when we work with teams, sometimes we make mistakes. And today's Monday here on the podcast, and we like to call it the Fail Monday. So we want to explore one of those stories, Harri. We'll dive into the learnings and the insights and what we can do differently later. But first, tell us a story of a moment where you, as a Scrum Master, at that time you did your best, but as it so often happens, the best just wasn't good enough then. So tell us that story, Harri.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So of course, I've been in many done many mistakes and so on. But there's one that I've been thinking about when that was a challenging situation, and I could have done differently maybe. But it was when I was working in a project or on a product where we had 3 internal customers. They were in different countries and they had very different needs, but they were all internal within the company. And this made it difficult for us to get a backlog that we could have prioritized, so everybody would be happy.
So
And
does that mean that when you were talking with the customers, you got very different needs and very different requirements, and then you kind of had to negotiate with all three to get more or less an ordered backlog? Was that the situation?
yes, so that was how it turned out. Or actually, it was we didn't have we couldn't even agree on a product owner.
Oh, okay. So you were the Scrum Master and you didn't even have a counterpart as a product owner. So you were kind of also trying to get the product owner part of the job done.
Yeah, not exactly like that, but yeah, we didn't have a product owner. And after we did a lot of talking back and forth, and we could agree on a committee of product owners.
Okay.
So there were three product owners, one from each country, and who built up the backlog together, so to say, and yeah, of course, that made it
So walk
difficult.
us through some of those sessions. I imagine you had meetings with all three of the product owners to kind of prioritize, like how did they collaborate? How did you see that from your perspective as a Scrum Master?
Yeah, it they were very polite with each other most of the time, so there weren't any fist fighting going on, but they were quite. It was difficult to get agreement on what's most important, and it usually ended up then that I had to make the decision on what we work on because we needed to work on something. So together with other managers and so on, then we built that up. So it was difficult time.
So at that time, I imagine the team was maybe even also confusing and frustrated with the lack of clarity. Is that how you experienced it?
Yes. Somehow I think we kind of managed to shield the team quite well from that. And the product itself, it was very technical, so and it was new new ways of working with the DevOps and very interesting things for them. So they were happy. But it was of course difficult because they couldn't know what stories to concentrate on most. So, but we did many technical stories, and so they got technical things to work on. So that was good and that was nice.
So how did you feel like when you had to work with those three product owners working in different countries? So of course you could only meet through a teleconference. How did it feel for you as a Scrum Master to work with that kind of environment in the product owner side?
It was challenging, but I think that I was quite happy with it. Anyways, I was happy to have a challenge to take on, and I also kind of had fallen in love with the product itself. So I was really burning for the idea that we were building there. So that was nice. But it ended up in the end, even if me and the team, we were happy with the product and the outcome and so on. But what happened was that when we presented this to the different stakeholders, the product did not really meet the needs and expectations. So it was very difficult, and that was a difficult part for me because I was really I had decided this should work. This is something that will work, and it was something I was happy with all
So
along.
you presented the product to the stakeholders. They basically gave you negative feedback. This is not what we wanted. When you think about that situation, and if you could, turn the clock back and go back to that time, what would you have done differently, Harri?
Yeah, that's difficult. Exactly what things, because I wanted to get that through. But I think that well, first of all, we hadn't engaged with all the customers well enough to start with. We were very determined that this is the way forward, and we will take in all the feedback and so on. I guess also there was some challenges with working with many stakeholders that we didn't take into account. But I think that the main thing that we did that we did not do was to be tough on that. We should have one product owner, a single product owner who is empowered to make decisions, and perhaps in this case even the decision to fail fast or kill your darling. We were so determined, so we spent a lot of time on this. So I think that was a mistake.
That's actually a great example of how a good team can shoot itself in the foot, because the important aspect of the work that a team does is that the product serves someone, right? Someone benefits from that product. The team doesn't do necessarily the product for themselves, they do it for others. And if those others are not benefiting from the product, then of course the team has nothing to deliver. But because the team is so good and motivated, like you said, right? Like you really believe the product, they will invest the time until they get explicitly stopped, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think that's one of the things that for us as Scrum Masters, we really need to pay attention, because it isn't only about getting a great team. Of course, that's part of it, but a great team working on the wrong product will spend a lot of time doing the wrong things.
Yeah.
It's a great story. Thank you for sharing, Harri.
Yeah. Thank you.
Monday is about what we learned from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.